DJ Valentino here with Pat from Movements. How are you doing today, Pat?
I'm good, man. How are you doing?
I'm fantastic. Thank you for asking. So now, how are you handling this whole situation? I'm sure that it's uncharted territory. It's very new. How are you keeping up?
Uh, it sucks, dude. Honestly, like, I mean, we're doing the best we can, given the scenario. But yeah, dude. I mean, I think every band and pretty much everybody in the world is kind of in the same position as we are. It's such uncertain times, and no one really knows what's going to happen. So we're trying to keep our heads above water. But obviously we have a new record coming out, and not being able to tour on that record is definitely a bummer. We had a whole rollout planned, and we had a bunch of tours lined up and fun stuff that we were going to be doing. And obviously the pandemic kind of put a halt on all of that. So, but we're doing the best we can.
Definitely, and especially what you guys have said, where you don't want to rush the second album. You spent so much time crafting it, making sure everything is perfect, and then for it to kind of land in the middle of this, that's definitely got to be kind of a harsh feeling.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, it's weird, man. I would have never expected anything like this to happen, like in my lifetime. Like it's such a crazy time. Yeah, I don't know. It sucks, but we're doing the best we can with it.
Definitely. Now, besides touring, were there any other promotion or plans that you guys had in place that got canceled due to the pandemic?
Yeah, like we had like music videos and stuff that we were gonna shoot. We had like we were gonna do like some in-store performances, like special, like little like secret show type things that we were gonna kind of like do little pop-ups, I think, like around the country. But yeah, I mean, that plus just the normal, I mean, everyday stuff that you don't really think about, like even like doing interviews and stuff, like that sort of general press things that you would be able to do most of the time, like in person on tour or whatever, are no longer an option right now. So yeah, I don't know. It all sucks.
Now, 100%. And you're right that, like, we really kind of have to adapt. Do you feel that you have to do more album promotion now that you guys can't really tour on the album? Do you really have to push it harder now?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's the biggest way to push a new album, is to be on tour and be, exposing new people to that music every single night, without being able to have those literal thousands of people every single night hearing new music. It's like you really have to focus on pushing socials and doing interactive things online to get kids' eyes on what's happening. I think that overall, I think that we're doing a pretty good job so far, but it is definitely scary to think about the fact that like we could be making so much more of an impact if we were able to do these social media and online promotions as well as touring on it. There's always the hypothetical of like, man, how much more could we be doing if the world wasn't on fire? You know what I mean? So yeah, I think it's going to take a lot of effort on not only the band side, but the label and all the digital teams involved in getting our music placed in places where new ears are going to hear it, where it's going to fall on new ears and be able to be experienced by people who may not have heard it otherwise, and a lot of that has to do with playlisting and they call it sync, which is basically like getting music in video games or movies or TV shows. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely uncharted territory, and it's very weird. It's very weird.
And your first album had such an emotional impact. Like, it was such an honest and incredible record, and it really affected so many fans throughout the entire pop punk emo community. So many people were touched by this record. do you feel that without touring, it's going to be a little bit more hard for the, you know, newer fans to come in and get the same feeling with this new record? You know what I mean? Reach that new fan base.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a concern that we have. I'd like to hope that it won't be an issue, and that the music will be able to stand on its own even without the live performance aspect. But yeah, I mean, that is a very legitimate concern. You know, I have kids who come up to me all the time at shows and say, "Oh, like, I'm just here with my friend and I'd never heard of you guys, but you know, I really liked it and I'm going to start listening." And that to me is so special and so cool because, you know, I think in some cases it takes seeing a band live to actually like appreciate what they do with their music. I know that's happened to me multiple times where I haven't really liked a band on first listen, and then I've seen them in a live scenario and it changes my whole perspective on the band, you know? And so I definitely worry about that with this new record. I obviously want as many people to like it as possible. But that might not be the case. And that's just going to be something that we have to maneuver around. And, you know, hopefully, I think that for the most part, the response we've gotten so far has been really good. I've seen much more positive comments than I have seen any negative, but I have seen the negative comments, and there are people who are like, "Oh, this just isn't doing it for me." You know, like it's not the same energy. It's not the same whatever. And I think you're right. I think their minds would be changed if they were able to see it in a live performance scenario, because in a live setting, these songs have a ton of energy that might not be totally able to be felt just on the first listen.
And you're so right. And it goes even more than just like you know, the music, like the environment that you cultivated at live shows. Like, I've seen it firsthand. It's incredible. It's such a friendly and like cohesive atmosphere. And it's definitely going to be tricky for fans getting into movements that aren't going to be able to experience that for a little bit. But kind of leading into my next question, what song off the new album are you most excited to play live, or do you think is going to get the best fan reception live?
Oh man, there's a few for sure. I'm really, really excited to play Skin to Skin live. It's my favorite song on the record. I think it's so fun and so dancey, and just such a, like, I guess like a feel good kind of song for me. I think I think it's fun. But then there's another song that's coming out, the third single. It's called Tunnel Vision, and that song is like probably like the heaviest on the album, and it's definitely got some really like intense, like emotional parts to it that I feel like in a live scenario kids are just gonna go crazy for. I can like already picture in my head like dog piles and a ton of people just like screaming the words to it, just because it's just one of those parts, you know. So yeah, I think Tunnel Vision and Skin to Skin are what I'm most excited for. And then, I mean, I'm excited to play all of them. I think that every single song is unique in its own right and has fun. What's the word I'm looking for? Has good potential for a live scenario.
Definitely. And my personal favorite song off the record is 12 Weeks. I love the way the guitars and the vocals just kind of match together, and the lyrics are incredible. If there's any insight or background to that song that you could share with us, I mean, we at WSOU would really appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, 12 Weeks is just essentially about feeling like feeling like the world would be better off if you were dead. And that sounds super morbid and like sad, but like it's just I write songs about how I feel sometimes, you know, and not even to say that I feel that way now, but you know, writing songs about ways that I have felt in the past and scenarios that have happened in the past, and that song in particular is just about feeling like you're always the one person to hurt someone else, like in a relationship, and then wondering like how much better would their life be if they had never met you, or if you had never existed at all. And that is just like the premise of that song is, you know, am I even like worth being here, or do I only cause pain type of an idea.
Was it harder to write such a sad and honest record after, again, the last 3 years you guys had? When you put out your first album, Feel Something, it exploded, and now you guys are a household name in the emo pop punk kind of genre. Was it more difficult to find that stuff, or do you feel that you were able to tap into it very easy?
Yeah, I don't know. I think that it's something that comes with time. You know, I write each of my songs about personal experiences and things that I go through or deal with and whatever, just the day to day, you know, kind of spins around in my head. And since we wrote the last album, I've had a lot of experiences and I've dealt with a lot of things, and I feel like I have the capability of writing about more now. And although most of them are along similar lines to Feel Something, I do think that we also, you know, I stepped out of the box a little bit in my lyricism and chose to write about some different topics on this album as well. You know, and that goes even deeper than speaking from like a personal level. It also goes into, you know, there's a couple songs on the album that although I'm using possessive pronouns like I and me, I'm not actually speaking about myself. I'm telling a story from the perspective of somebody in my life who I know and who I'm close with and whose story I am telling through their perspective. And so that was something that was new for me that I haven't tried before. And was kind of difficult to get inside the head of somebody else and try and, you know, write a song from their mind instead of my own. But I really enjoyed doing that, and that was a lot of fun for me. So yeah, there's a bunch of different topics on the album. Like I said, many of which are similar to stuff that we've written in the past, and many of which are different. It just depends on the song.
I'm sure that, you know, if you have experienced something when you're singing, you know, kind of the emotion level you want to sing with, whereas if it's someone else or a close friend that's going through it, it must be harder to kind of capture that emotion that they're going through.
Absolutely.
What sort of vocal warm-ups, either physical or even mental, do you do when in the studio?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's hard to say. Like, the same warm-ups that I do in the studio are the warm-ups that I do when we play shows. I have like a whole routine that I go through. My vocal coach, her name is Melissa Cross. She basically like designed an entire warm-up, I guess, regiment for me. And she basically has me do it just every single day before I start singing. And it starts like from the moment that I wake up in the morning until I go play a show, because you have to get your vocal folds like acclimated to like doing what they're going to do later on in the day. And like, you know, like when you wake up and you feel kind of groggy and your throat kind of just like feels like ugh. Like there's ways that I have to like combat that. So like literally like first thing in the morning, I have to do like a certain exercise to like wake my vocal cords up. And then throughout the day I do more. And then when it gets like maybe like an hour before showtime or an hour before I'm supposed to start singing in the studio, I do like my actual like warmups, which is like a 30-minute routine of different scales and different little like vocal exercises that kind of get my vocal cords ready to go. And yeah,
exactly. And I'm sure that with like quarantine, like, you know, when it's normal and you're playing shows, you know, you do the warm-ups and then the show almost warms up your vocal cords for the next show, whereas during quarantine it's got to be more tricky to keep up
totally.
with such a high level.
Bro, I haven't sang in like 3 months. I probably sound like trash right now if I tried.
So now another question that I have about the record is one of the coolest aspects is the last song, or the title track, No Good Left to Give, bleeds into the last song.
Yes.
Love Took the Last of It. What went into that choice? Was it original one song, or did you always kind of go in wanting it to bleed into that song?
I think we always wanted it to be an interlude into the last song, but I think our original idea was that it was going to be the intro to the album. And it's funny because it ended up being the outro. But yeah, just how that song, how Love Took the Last of It kind of ended up turning out as a whole, it just felt like such a good ender that like there was no way we could put it in the beginning. It was just the perfect song to end the album on. But yeah, we love the idea of like bands that kind of like have done similar things in the past where like one song leads into the next in some way. Notably Manchester Orchestra is super good at that. On their last album, it's called A Black Mile to the Surface. There's like 3 songs I think that all lead into each other, like one leads into the next which leads into the next, and it's just like it's so cool. And that was like really inspirational for us, and that was something that we wanted to try. And the No Good Left to Give, the title track, is so simple, and it's literally just like 2 lines, because it's like based on a poem that I wrote that I then just kind of like translated into like a musical form. And so, yeah, like we took that, and it was so simple and so perfect as an interlude that we were just like, okay, let's make that an interlude and then have it bleed into that last song. And yeah, it worked out really well, I think.
What is one central theme or message that you want fans, hardcore fans of Movements, to take away from this new release?
I just want them to be able to appreciate and understand like the growth of this band, and I hope that they would grow with us. I want them I want them to interpret it how they interpret it. I don't think there's necessarily one theme that I feel like anybody should be feeling about the record. However you want to feel about it is up to you. But I just want people to understand that Movements, we're never going to put out the same album twice. And I think a lot of people might be disappointed in the fact that this doesn't sound exactly like Feel Something. And in our opinion, like that's good. Like that's okay that it doesn't, because that means we're doing something right. We don't ever want to be the band that sounds the same with every single release that we put out. I think that it might take some people a little bit of I think some people are going to love it right off the bat, but I think other people, it might take some getting used to, and it might take a little bit of warming up. But overall, I think at the end of the day, I just want people to understand that just because it's a little different doesn't mean it's not Movements. It's just a little bit of a new era, and hopefully they can come to love it just as much as they came to love Feel Something. And at the same time, I also feel like, Movements is not the type of band where you can just listen to one song once and get it. I think that each of these songs, it has a depth that need to be understood through multiple listens,
Exactly. And some of the bands that do try to make the same album over and over again, they get less hype with every album because it's the same thing. So
Yep.
The band that progresses is the one that really stays in the scene and doesn't kind of fade away.
Absolutely. I fully agree with that.
So now one last question for you. Thank you again so much for talking with me today. We really appreciate it. What is the first thing that you're going to do when this album is out?
Oh man. Probably stress. Probably stress about something else. Right now I'm stressed about it coming out. Once it comes out, I'll finally not stress about it coming out anymore, but I'll stress about, oh man, I hope people like it. But no, I don't know. I don't know what I mean. I guess start working on the next one. That's all you can really do, Nothing better to do right now.
Absolutely. Well, you and the band should definitely be so proud of the album you've created. All of us here at WSOU are so excited for when this comes out. Thank you so much again for talking with me today.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.